The morning mist clung to the lake's surface like a gossamer shroud when Marcus heard the splash. Living alone in his lakeside cabin for 3 years, he'd grown accustomed to the sounds of nature. Loons calling across the water, beaver slapping their tails, the occasional deer drinking at the shore. But this sound was different, desperate. He dropped his coffee mug and sprinted toward the dock, his bare feet slapping against the wooden planks. What he saw made him question his sanity. A woman was drowning, but she wasn't entirely human. Fox ears protruded from her auburn hair, now plastered against her skull, and behind her thrashed a magnificent foxtail, waterlogged and heavy. Her eyes, brilliant amber, locked onto his with a mixture of terror and hope. Marcus didn't hesitate, he dove. The lake was shockingly cold, but years of swimming in these waters had prepared him. He reached her just as she began to sink, her struggles growing weaker. Up close he could see the delicate fur pattern around her ears and the way her canine teeth were slightly more pronounced than a human's. None of it mattered. She was drowning. "I've got you," he gasped, wrapping his arm around her torso and beginning the swim back to shore. She was surprisingly light, though her waterlogged tail made the journey more difficult than expected. They collapsed onto the pebbly beach, both gasping. She coughed up lake water, her body shivering violently. Without thinking, Marcus scooped her up and carried her to his cabin. "Thank you," she whispered in accented English as he wrapped her in his heaviest blanket. I thought I would die. What happened?" Marcus asked, poking at the fireplace to bring it back to life. "And what are you exactly?" "If you don't mind me asking." She managed a weak smile. "I am Kira of the Vulpine Collective. We are explorers, you might say. My ship malfunctioned during atmospheric entry. The escape pod landed in your lake." She gestured weakly toward the window. "I cannot swim well. Our homeworld has no large bodies of water." Marcus processed this information with surprising calm. Perhaps it was the adrenaline, or maybe living in isolation had prepared him to accept the impossible. "Alien fox people, okay, are there others?" "No, I was scouting alone." She studied his face carefully. "You saved my life, Marcus Chen. By the laws of my people, I am now bound to you until the debt is repaid. You know my name?" "Your mail is visible through the window." She pointed to the stack on his kitchen counter. "Also, our species has been observing humanity for some time. You intrigue us." Over the following days, Kira proved to be an unusual houseguest. She was fascinated by everything. His coffee maker, the concept of books, the way human technology seemed to rely on electricity rather than bioluminescent fungi. Her ship, she explained, was completely destroyed, and her people wouldn't return for her for several months. "I could contact them," she said on the third evening as they sat by the fire. "But the debt remains unpaid." "What debt?" Marcus asked, though he was beginning to suspect he knew. "You saved my life. Until I save yours in return, I cannot leave your side. It is our way." Marcus had tried to explain that he didn't consider her in debt to him, that any decent person would have done the same. But Kira was adamant. Her honor demanded it. What started as an awkward living arrangement gradually became comfortable. Then something more. Kira was brilliant. Her species had mastered interstellar travel while humanity was still figuring out sustainable energy. But she was also curious about the simplest human things. She spent hours watching him cook, asking endless questions about spices and techniques. "Your species survives on such a dangerous world," she mused one evening, watching him prepare dinner. "Predators, natural disasters, diseases, war. Yet you create beauty, music, art, literature. My people live safely, but we create little." "Maybe safety isn't everything," Marcus replied, stirring the pasta. "Maybe struggle makes us human." She tilted her head, fox-like. "Is that why we find you so fascinating? Your capacity to thrive despite, or perhaps because of, adversity." The weeks turned into a month. Kira's English improved dramatically, and she began to understand human humor, even developing her own sense of it. She was particularly amused by his reaction to her morning exercises, which involved a series of stretches that were decidedly feline in nature. "You're staring again," she teased one morning, noticing his attention. "Sorry, it's just, you're graceful, almost hypnotic." Something shifted in her expression. "Marcus, I must tell you something. The debt, it could have been repaid weeks ago. I've prevented you from accidents you never noticed. The loose step on your dock that would have sent you into the lake. The gas leak from your stove. The falling branch during last week's storm. He stared at her. Then why are you still here? Because, she said softly, her amber eyes meeting his. I realized I don't want to leave. Not because of honor or debt, but because of choice. I've contacted my ship. They're willing to wait. Marcus set down his coffee mug, the same one he'd dropped the day he met her. How long? As long as I want. She stepped closer. My people believe humans are remarkable because of your resilience, your creativity, your refusal to surrender to impossible odds. But I think the most remarkable thing about humans is your capacity for connection. You saved a stranger without hesitation. You welcomed an alien into your home. You made me understand that safety without companionship isn't really living. He reached out, gently touching one of her fox ears. The fur was incredibly soft. So you're staying? If you'll have me. Though I should warn you, fox people mate for life. Marcus smiled, pulling her close. Outside, the lake sparkled in the morning sun, and somewhere in its depths the remains of an alien ship served as a reminder of the day his quiet life became extraordinary. I think I can live with that, he whispered against her ear. And in that moment Marcus understood why his species had caught the attention of the stars. Sometimes the greatest adventures began not with seeking out new worlds, but with simply being willing to dive into unknown waters to save a life.